Here's some advice you don't hear every day. Don't be yourself. It's counterintuitive and against the prevailing wisdom about authenticity and self-realization you hear much more often. It is one of the many themes in author Amy Alkon's new book with a title that's, well, let's just say it's a bit tricky to say on a family program. How about we call it Un-F-Word-ology, a field guide to living with guts and confidence. And Amy Alkon joins us now via Skype from Venice, California. Amy, great to have you back on the program. How you doing tonight?
Thanks, really great.
Well, I talked about the difficulty in saying the title of your book on this program, so why don't we search for other words that might convey what you're trying to say without saying un-blank-ology on the air?
Okay. Well, what I want is for people to be their biggest, best selves. And so much of that is about not letting your feelings be the boss of you. And that's a big problem. We let our feelings, our fears run us, when instead, if we act in confident ways, then we can be our biggest, best selves.
So maybe the headline should be You 2.0, something like that?
Something like that.
Okay, that works for me. I must confess that when I read the book and I heard you describe yourself in your childhood as being kind of a loser kid, that didn't jibe with the person who I'm speaking to today. So take us back and tell us about what you were like as a kid.
I just had the worst childhood. I grew up across the street in Michigan from Canada. I consider myself Canadian-ish because we spent so much time in Canada. And kids just didn't like me. And I had no friends until I was 15 years old. And then what happens when you get your first friend at 15? You cling to them like a shipwrecked rat on driftwood. And so I became a suck-up. And this is not a way to garner people's respect or to have real friends. And so in a moment of desperation in the rain in New York, after I'd helped everyone move and everybody was just filing their nails when I had to move, I realized I had only one real friend and I needed to change. I needed to transform.
Transform from what to what?
Well, from this timid loser suck-up to a person who behaved with confidence and who had self-respect. And I was pretty desperate and didn't really know what to do. But what I did turned out to be actually, as I later found out, based in good science about action driving character.
How do you think you were able to achieve that?
Well, you know, there's this line, fake it till you make it. And that's actually problematic scientifically for a number of reasons, because we get so overloaded with all the things we're supposed to remember. What I did, and this was just out of desperation then, because I didn't have the science background I have now, but I thought, well, look at these people in my life who behave with confidence. My old boss, Kathy. And I thought, well, when I'm in a situation where I need some confidence, I'm just going to act like her. I'm going to be her. So I put on her whole persona and I would talk like her and she was very cool and would talk like this. And I found that when I behave with confidence as Kathy, that people didn't throw me out. They didn't chase me with a broom. They just would sometimes have some sort of mild sort of grumbling, but they would usually acquiesce to what I said. And I thought, wow, okay, this works. This behavior works. And I began to behave like Kathy, and then I began to shed the Kathy thing and behave as a confident person as me, which was really exciting.
What if you can't fake it till you make it?
Well, I don't think you can, because faking it till you make it, what happens, there's something that goes on called cognitive overload. So you're trying to remember, okay, I should stand this way and I should talk this way and everything. And those aren't really faking it per se. They're sort of acting correctly as a confident person. But your brain gets so overloaded by that stuff that you can't remember that thing you were going to say when you were pitching that person on your business idea. So it all crumbles. So that's why you need that impersonate your way to a new you rather than this fake it and try to remember all this stuff. Because when you don that other person's persona, it's just it's like a suit that you don. All their ways of speaking and acting and moving, you do all those things and you don't have to remember them. So that's what's important.
I suspect there are parents watching us right now who've got teenage kids who were like, you know, the Amy's, like 15-year-old Amy, if I can put it that way, and maybe even their teenage kids as well who are watching and wondering how they can transform themselves from the kid that they don't necessarily like being to something different. And to that end, You quote F. Scott Fitzgerald in your book saying action is character. What's the message there you're trying to convey?
It really, really is. And the message I keep trying to convey throughout the book is that you need to act correctly. You need to figure out what your values are, not have this idea of authenticity. Oh, well, this is the sort of person I am, but figure out the ideal you and then act as that person. And forget the fact, not forget, but just when you're afraid to approach somebody, your fears don't get to rule you. You rule you and you say, okay, yes, I'm afraid. Too bad, fears. Go away, fears. And you just go up and talk to them. Now, you're not going to do this perfectly, especially not the first time. And there's something very important to remember for this, and it's a thing called small wins. So, okay, maybe you failed. Maybe the person said, I'm not interested in talking to you right now, something mean like that. Or maybe they just brushed you off. But what's different? You were not courageous yesterday, and today you approach somebody. You didn't let your fears rule you. And those small wins allow us to feel good even about our failures.
What happened to Shakespeare's line, "To thine own self be true"? Are you saying we ought to disregard that approach?
I do. I do think we should disregard that. And I say, to thy ideal self be true. And what we don't do is we don't choose our values. We think I should be a good person, but we don't really sit down and explicitly make a list of what are the top values that I regard as important and ideal in myself. For me, for example, courage is one of them. Another one is defending our civil liberties. And these are things that guide my behavior, knowing my values, having a list of them written down. I hope you won't ask me to remember them all right now in my list, but they're in the book. Those values help me remember to behave correctly, remember to behave as the ideal me, instead of be run by our feelings, my feelings, which are not always the best. They're not always guiding us in terms of our modern goals, because our psychology is old, that's guiding us today. We have antique evolutionary psychology that is ideal even today for hunter-gatherer times, ancestral times. And so in a modern world, those emotions don't always make sense.
Well, let me ask you about another value, and I suspect this is particularly timely given that the president of your country is the president of your country because he was so good at being his authentic self. Whether people liked it or not, they said, well, at least he's being himself. What about that? Where's that on the list?
I think that people like people who don't seem like frauds. And the thing is, what I'm telling you to do to impersonate your way to a new you, you're not trying to cheat somebody out of all of their money. You're just trying to be a better you. So it's a good goal. So you're not going to feel like you're going to defraud people. But I think there are a number of reasons that Donald Trump won, but I think that people were sick of the polished politician who never said what they meant. And Donald Trump, he would just say whatever was on his mind at the moment. And I think some people found that refreshing.
Do you believe, though, that we all have an authentic self within us?
Yes, in a sense, because personality is stable across situations. But because you tend to be a certain way, that's part genetic and part environmental, that doesn't mean you have to just accept it and say, okay, this is my life sentence. You can change. And particularly in America, we are lazy. We think everything should be easy. And so I was a terrible, terrible speaker. And I spent just an ungodly amount of time improving, doing a podcast. I got this coaching for a TED Talk I did. And other people, professors I know, spend maybe 15 hours writing and memorizing their talk. I went out, I probably spent 120 hours, but I realized I needed the remedial education. And that's the thing that you can do with anything in you that's not quite working.
Presumably somewhere along the way, though, parents can either be helpful or harmful to what we're talking about here. And if you are not lucky enough to have parents who love you unconditionally and are prepared to allow you to be, the best you can be, what do you do about that?
Well, give me an example.
Example that just popped into my head. Barbara Streisand will go to therapy for the rest of her life dealing with her mother because her mother never complimented her. And her mother said, I didn't want you to get a swelled head. But along the way, it certainly prohibited Barbara from having the happy childhood that she wished she had had and which she's spent 70 years in therapy trying to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
I exactly do. And the problem is, so my book, the crux of my book is what's called embodied cognition. And this is a science, and I describe it as the way I put it for ordinary people is that the mind is bigger than the brain. And we are so inefficient in the way we try to change. People go to therapists and they talk about changing for eons and eons. And actually, as you quoted before, action builds character. What happens by repeatedly acting with courage? First of all, you see that your fears are stupid, that nobody's going to chase you with a broom, but you also change your brain. And this doesn't happen overnight, but you change the pathways, you change your default reaction from the fearful, timid reaction to the bold reaction. So you actually do become a new person by acting correctly, acting with confidence.
I've heard Barbara Streisand talk about this. I've also heard Oprah talk about this, the fact that they grew up in circumstances where they were just not able to feel the self-esteem that so many kids nowadays, maybe overcorrecting, are feeling. Where is self-esteem on the list of important things as it relates to what we're talking about tonight?
Actually, we have a mistaken idea of self-esteem, this idea that self-esteem is I like me. This is really, really pretty awful. And actually, what self-esteem per the science says to be, it seems to be, is it's our estimation of other people's appraisal of us and how we feel in the wake of that. And this is an evolved emotion that helped us either sort of defer to the Stone Age cheerleader and the captain of the football team so we wouldn't be kicked out of the band and starved to death. Or if we were doing well, the message from our emotions was, wow, keep doing that. And so this notion of I like me, that it's more a more helpful notion is self-acceptance, that I accept me, that my flaws are part of me, and then all the things that I'm good at are part of me, and it's all a package. And what people do is they focus, they hone in on that little thing. Oh, I pick my nails when I'm nervous and people see that. Okay, well, you pick your nails, but what do you do that's great? What are you better at than other people? It's all this package, and you need to look at yourself with compassion and actually see yourself as connected to other people through your humiliations, because we're all humiliated at times. And actually, that's what we want to hear at a cocktail party. I don't want to hear how great you are. I want to hear about the horrible thing that happened to you that was so embarrassing and how you dealt with it.
Well, let's talk about, I mean, you offer plenty of advice in the book, and I'm going to ask your opinion about one piece of advice that you offer, and that is why you believe it is so important to be able to say to people no without an explanation.
Oh, I love this, because I was a person who couldn't say no for years and years and years. And with an explanation, you give people an opening to debate you, and you don't want to do that. And you may not feel confident saying no, but you need to just do it. That's a big message of the book, to just do what needs to be done. And you can go yell at your feelings afterward or even before and say, hey, feelings, I know you're not guiding me in my best interest, so shut up. And then do what needs to be done. That's really, really important.
Here's another quote from the book. Misery has been my life coach. Really?
It really has. You don't learn from these things that are great experiences. A happy experience doesn't tell you, well, maybe do that differently or think about that. You just sort of bask in that warm glow and go on your way. So I'm perhaps a more thinking person, and I know I'm a more compassionate and resilient person because of the experiences I've had. I'm the person who, having been the underdog, having had a terribly lonely childhood and been bullied, when I enter a party or I'm at a party, it's more when I'm at a party and talking to people, I see that person who is not talking to anyone, who looks lost, and I invite them to join the conversation. So this is how you make positive things out of what was a negative experience, a negative childhood.
Let me ask you a bit about your politics. You describe yourself as a libertarian, and I wonder if there is a connection between your libertarianism and your belief that, quote, people should not be victims of their biographies.
I do think they're connected. I think that we need to take action to change and not just whine about things. And that's what I see. I see a lot of whining now and a lot of demanding that other people speak differently, or not speak at all. And I'm for free speech and then debating that free speech. And if you're not very good at debating the free speech, get better. Do what I did, spend an unconscionable amount of time. It may take somebody else about an hour of boning up on debate tactics that you can learn on Google, where it took me hours and hours of nightly work. You just do what it takes to become the person you want to be.
Amy, was there a eureka moment when you realized, I'm actually pretty good at this, I've done the research, I know the science, I can start offering people advice on this? Was there a eureka moment when that happened to you?
I'm sorry to say, actually, my career in advice giving started as a joke. I gave free advice on a Soho street corner with two other women. We thought that people would just walk past and laugh, but the sign said free. It was New York. They lined up around the block. And then people began to ask us serious questions. And so I started reading through all of psychology and going to science conferences, reading the journals, and developing an ability to vet science, statistics, and all these things. And so it was a gradual process, but through a feeling of responsibility that I shouldn't just be giving advice to people without actually having any sort of scientific background.
Well, you obviously got good at it. You called yourself the advice goddess for a while.
That was sort of an accident. You're plumbing into all my secrets. I sold my column to a second newspaper, and they said, "What do you call your column?" And my business card said freelance goddess, and so I picked that. And now I'm actually the science goddess, to differentiate me from the people who just give advice, based on, oh, I had this thought, and not reading research. Because I'll read research, and what I thought might be the answer is sometimes not the answer, though I'm transdisciplinary, so I know a lot of research. So usually I have a pretty good idea of what the answer is.
Gotcha. Let's finish up on this, and I know you get this question all the time, but sorry, I'm going to ask it again anyway. Your last book was called Good Manners for Nice People Who Sometimes Say, and then it's the F word. And you've got another title of this book, which is Un-F-Wordology. And, if Jerry Seinfeld were here, he would no doubt say, Amy, what's the deal with you and the F word? So what's the answer?
Well, frankly, my friends will have an intervention if I have one more word of profanity in a book title. But what actually happened was that both of these subjects, self-esteem, even though I know we define it incorrectly, and then manners, they're so prissy. And I wanted to say that this is a book for men as well as women. I love guys, especially nerdy guys. And I want those guys to understand that there's a process to being the guy that gets the girl, or being the woman who gets the guy, or the woman who gets the woman, to being that person who gets all the things in life that they want as far as their ability can take them. And that gets me across the prissy barrier, these bad words in my titles.
Are you working on another book?
I am. It's a medical expose on how our medical care is not as science-based as we think it is.
And how are you going to work the F word into the title of that book?
There's no way. There's no way.
You're going to have to push at the edges of your comfort zone to find a new title, I guess. Okay.
Right.
Amy, it's great to have you on TVO again tonight. We remind everybody the name of the book is called, well, I can't really say it, Un-Blankology, a field guide to living with guts and confidence, of which you have both in abundance. Thanks so much for being on TVO tonight.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.